Story 1. It wasn't worth it at all. The pain I caused still affects me. They didn't deserve it. I was selfish and people got hurt. Story 2. It ruined my marriage and my ex-wife's self-esteem. It is without a doubt the biggest regret of my life. I think about it every day, and honestly, if I could take it back and be a better man, I would. Story 3. I have noticed in many conversations in this thread a tendency to focus on the cheater's justifications, how they were unhappy, how it just happened, or how they are in a better place now. But what about the person they left behind? Cheating does not just end a relationship. It often shatters someone's trust, self-worth, and sense of security. That matters. We cannot keep glossing over the harm caused just because someone feels better after moving on. Love is one of the most sacred and vulnerable bonds we can form with another human being. Breaking that in secret and without care is not just a mistake. It is a betrayal that deserves acknowledgement, not excuses. Story 4. I have been the person someone cheated with, and it felt terrible when I initially found out, despite not knowing before. She did a good job hiding it from both of us, and even after we discovered the truth, she strung us along for a while. I ended up disappearing from her and them abruptly and never really received any closure. Story 5. I still feel sick about what happened, and I doubt that will ever change. It has been 5 years. Long story short, I cheated on my ex with another ex. The reasons are not relevant. I realized that what I was doing was wrong and put a stop to it. I told my current partner, the one I cheated on, about the infidelity and begged her for forgiveness. I hurt multiple people due to moments of weakness. We tried to make it work for another year or so, during which I stayed faithful, but it didn't work out. She told me she couldn't get over it, which was understandable, and we parted ways. I left a trail of destruction in my wake, and it makes me feel horrible. I can't even imagine how the others feel. Story 6. The damage I could have caused another person was not worth it. It happened a long time ago, just once, and she never found out. We broke up for other reasons, but in a future relationship, I was cheated on and discovered the truth. The impact it had on me was eye-opening. I have never cheated again, and I never will. Story 7. Confession time. My husband was having a full-blown affair with his colleague, who is 10 years younger. I knew, called it. I challenged them. I even contacted their employer. For context, during the 18 months they were falling in love, he physically abused me, assaulted me, verbally abused me, financially controlled me, and generally did everything to ensure our relationship ended. After I found out they were together, her boyfriend reached out. I ended my marriage. I slept with her boyfriend. Was it revenge, loneliness, camaraderie? I don't know. Too lonely, abused people falling into bed with one another. Did she care? Not at all. Did he care? Apparently not. She got engaged to my husband within 9 months after our divorce, less than 18 months after I slept with her boyfriend. He was slightly older, so I didn't feel too bad. Now I'm remarried to my childhood sweetheart. I'm happy, in love, and accepting that life is challenging, but I'm content. I still maintain a distant friendship with her ex, who is also happily married. My current husband knows that her ex checks in occasionally, and it is completely platonic. No feelings involved. As for them, they are married with a child and a house. She is welcome to him and he is welcome to her. They are both toxic and abusive individuals. This is the short version of a horrid 2 years. Story 8. I did it once when I was 21. Even worse, I cheated on him with his best friend. I'm sure he has moved on now, but I haven't. The pain and harm I caused will live with me forever, and that's something I feel I deserve. No one should ever hurt someone like that. It changed the way I think about myself. I will never cheat on someone again. I don't keep it a secret either. I've told every partner I've had since. I told my whole family. I've been told I should forgive myself, but I simply cannot. It's just a horrible thing to do to someone. Story 9. I never understood why people in relationships do not end them. Instead, they stay and cheat with someone new. Story 10. The explanation of whether it was worth it should always clarify the impact on the person who was betrayed in the justification. Was it worth it for you and was it worth it for them? Story 11. No, when I think about it, it horrifies me. I will try to never cause that amount of pain again. Also, I suppose the fact that my libido is nearly gone now is karmic. I was foolish, but I have learned. Story 12. I'm so curious about this because everyone is saying they wish they would have just ended it. It's frustrating. You shouldn't have had to hurt someone in that way to gain such a low level of empathy. I had guys for years telling me I deserved better than my boyfriend, and even though I agreed with them, I wanted my ex to be better. I had countless opportunities during the 4+ years we were together, but I chose to respect my partner and our relationship every time. He went out of his way to find a stranger online to cheat with the day before Valentine's Day while I was at work. Story 13. Not worth it. We were already close as friends. She, who is not single, started it. Honestly, it was just nice to feel wanted at first. She told me she loved me, and I fell in love with her too. We talked about how she would leave her partner for me countless times. Eventually, things got ugly. I deeply regret it, but I can be absolutely sure I will never put myself or another person in that situation again. That is my life lesson learned. Story 14. I did something to a girlfriend I probably knew deep down at the time would eventually be my wife. I acted for a mix of reasons I cannot articulate or justify. It was a toxic combination of fear, alcohol, and the challenges of a long-distance relationship. I thought confessing would help fix things between us. While I believed it was the right thing to do, it did not work out. Since then, my dating life and mental health have significantly deteriorated. She is now happily in a new relationship, and I am pursuing an order of protection against my ex. This happened back in 2021, and I am still not over it. Do not make the same mistake. Story 15. I was unfaithful and deeply hurt my long-term partner, creating trauma in our relationship. It's been over a year, and I still feel shame, guilt, loss of pride, and respect. I presented myself as someone I was not to her and to my friends, and I rightfully lost both. How can you trust someone who would do the worst possible thing to the person they claim to care for? I understand why people dislike and hate me. However, to answer your question, I feel motivated, appreciative, and relieved right now. If I hadn't been caught, I would have never stopped. I was once told that for an alcoholic, 1 drink is too many, and 1,000 is not enough. The reasons I was unfaithful were brought to light, and I recognize that it's more than just being a bad person. I struggle with self-worth, have narcissistic tendencies, seek validation, and don't always respect my word or honesty. I'm not defined by my mistakes, and one thing I noticed after D-Day is that I love my partner. I would give my life for her, and at the moment, she has taken me back. How can I not love someone who still loves me for who I am, even after I've hurt her like an out-of-control driver hitting an undeserving victim? I made a mistake, but I'm not that mistake. I will continue to be a better person, and I will love my partner in ways I never could before. Story 16. It was not worth it at all, and I continue to feel guilty about it. I felt guilty the second it happened, and I don't remember enjoying it in the moment either. It was years ago, and I was scared. That's just who I am as a whole person. An absolute monster. But I'm not. I've had nightmares about it this whole time, and it ate me alive. However, my experience isn't what mattered. It was about their horrible experience after I told them. I made a really bad decision. I have my understanding of it now and why it happened, but it's no excuse or justification for the bad and damaging choice I made. After I told my partner, the next time I saw them, they wanted to stay together for some reason. I said no and held my ground for a few months because it was not a good relationship. However, they wanted to continue it, and I eventually agreed. I can't imagine the pain I caused, but thankfully they are married with children now. Even though they caused me long-lasting damage totally separate from what I did, I honestly hope they are happy now because I will never forget what I did or take it lightly. Story 17. You are not getting the full story by posting this question. Most cheaters feel guilty and ashamed, which is a positive response. However, you are not hearing from those who do not feel that way. Trust me, they are out there. I have known several people who were cheaters, including my ex-wife. They are not consumed by shame or guilt and continue to live their lives selfishly. More often than not, they never learn. Story 18. That little bit of pleasure is never worth the deep hole in my chest of guilt from taking someone's heart and destroying it. Story 19. It wasn't worth it at all. The pain I caused still affects me. They didn't deserve it. I was selfish and people got hurt. Story 20. Reading these comments brings me peace. As someone who has been cheated on, please let it go. Your guilt won't purify you. All you can do is strive to be better for the future. I know you all feel terrible about the pain you caused, but you have felt bad for long enough. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and be better. I know you can. Story 21. How can I say that I should have known better? I realized that I wanted someone else but was too cowardly to pursue them and to let go of what I had. I was involved with some girls who were not what I wanted or needed, and I couldn't even explain why they were great. I just wasn't satisfied. But just being wanted, I guess. I was so insecure and selfish that I felt validated by more than just one woman. I'm not proud of it, but it happened, and now I'm single, avoiding anyone I see because no one is what I want anymore. I think I deserve to be alone. Story 22. It was terrible when I got caught, but we grew from it and everything got even better. Story 23. I wasn't the cheater, but I was cheated on 3 times in 12 years. I forgave the first 2 instances and we ended up with 3 beautiful children. During the last situation, I had a great job. However, we worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, which was exhausting. Despite earning a good income, we were just saving until one day, while I was on my break, the kids answered the phone and told me their mom was out front with her boyfriend. That was 5 years ago. I'm over it now, but the breakup of my family still hurts, and I couldn't bring myself to go through that again. Story 24. I am a lot poorer because I went to a significant amount of therapy, but I am happier because I recognized what the problem was, me. I wasn't happy, and I took it out on people who deserved better. I should have ended relationships instead of finding someone else to make me happy. I am not well suited for long-distance relationships. I need someone close. I now live the ethically non-monogamous lifestyle, which has helped because it gives me the full experience of what I want in relationships. A main partner and occasional flings. My partner and I are both former cheaters, and we have an incredibly close bond navigating this space together. We use our past infidelities as a talking point, discussing how we would feel before cheating. There is no point in shying away from these conversations. Story 25. I cheated on my husband. It was not a good marriage at all. My mental health was worse than ever, and I felt trapped living in his parents' house because he barely worked. My dad had just died a fast and traumatic death, and I could go on about how emotionally unwell I was. My husband viewed me as his support for life. He actually said that to people. He told our daughter that I didn't want her. I got tired of it, realized some truths about our relationship, and eventually exploded in the worst possible way. Ultimately, I'm thankful to be out of that relationship and to have somewhat recovered and rebuilt my life in the years since. However, I will carry the self-disgust for the rest of my life. I feel like such a different person now after everything I've been through since then. It feels easy now to be direct about what I want. I believe I owe it to any future partners to admit this history early on, as some people feel strongly about the phrase, once a cheater, always a cheater. My ex-husband behaves worse than ever these days and will tell people if I don't. So I'd rather own it myself and be honest and open from day one about my past. I believe I will never cheat again. It was absolutely not worth it. I feel like I have a scarlet letter on my forehead, like I'm not worthy of any relationship now because of what I've done. I know I need to work through that. Story 26. I wouldn't recommend it. You may end up feeling like a terrible person for not knowing how to communicate. Trauma breeds trauma. Do not cheat on your partner. Story 27. I felt neglected, but that doesn't mean he deserved it. Do I regret it? I regret not being mature enough or having the courage to end a relationship in which I wasn't happy because I was more afraid of being alone. We both would have wasted less time. Story 28. I betrayed my best friend with his future wife. She seduced me with candles, music, and a revealing dress. We had a big argument at his birthday party, and later that night he shot himself. I felt immense guilt. I gave him a kiss on his forehead, and while she and I were crying, she asked if she still had me. I told her she didn't have me and that she was unfaithful. Story 29. I never had to cheat. I had a long and honest talk with my girlfriend when I thought we were getting too serious at a young age. I have always had strong desires, and I didn't want to end up blaming or resenting her for holding me back. We both decided we would be open to the possibility of hooking up with other people. She said that wasn't for her. She wasn't going to pursue anyone else. Even though it hurt her to think about it, she understood where I was coming from and loved me so much that she was willing to deal with the possibility of me doing it. I expressed that I would prefer if she told me about any situations, so I would know what was going on. She said she would rather not know or hear about it at all, but wanted me to be safe and get tested. That was about 4 years ago. We have been together for 8 years, and neither of us has hooked up with anyone other than each other. I felt a huge sense of relief knowing our feelings for each other went beyond just being possessive. I felt more free knowing the option was there for me, but I never felt the need to actively pursue anyone else because our sex life is still good. I wouldn't change a thing, and my love for her grows stronger every day through every challenge we face together. Basically, just communicate healthily with your partner about your needs and your boundaries. Long-term relationships should support each other's growth while loving each other for who you are, not just who you might become. Understand your limits, as all relationships require some level of compromise, though not enough to foster resentment. Understand that breaking up is completely natural, and very few people are compatible as life partners. Work hard for each other, but above all else, communicate. Story 30. If anyone else is feeling frustrated by the justifications for certain actions, I encourage you to read this post from a few days ago. It might cheer you up. Story 31. 6 years ago, infidelity was limited to text messages. Regarding what happened, I feel terrible. I betrayed my partner's trust and acted in ways that contradicted my character. Since then, I feel much better. I pursued therapy, read books, and absorbed any knowledge I could to better understand my actions, which seemed far removed from the person I believed I was. The books, The State of Affairs by Esther Perel and Not Just Friends were very influential. They helped me realize that people cheat not because of circumstances, but due to behavior. The surest way to guard against infidelity is through total honesty with your partner and establishing strict boundaries with others. The relationship eventually ended last year, but it was amicable. We remain good friends, and she holds no ill will about what transpired. Story 32. I have cheated. People will be disappointed by my answer. I felt no guilt, and it was actually a catalyst for significant change in my life. Although it was the wrong thing to do and I wouldn't do it again, to answer your question, it was worth it. Story 33. While I didn't have the greatest partner, it wasn't worth it. It's a heavy pain that I carry with me every day. We have been divorced for 2 years now, and he is happily remarried. He deserves it. I wish I could tell him how sorry I am. Story 34. I experienced betrayal in my first serious relationship, but I will never go through that again. Cheating is one of the worst actions you can take against someone, and it is the ultimate betrayal. I regret the pain I caused my ex. She made some mistakes of her own, but she did not deserve my betrayal. That is not the kind of person I ever want to be again. You can never expect to deserve a healthy, trusting relationship if you cannot uphold your end of the agreement. Story 35. I will never forgive myself. I acted in a moment of desperation when I wanted him to hate me so it wouldn't hurt him as much when I tried to end my life. My attempt failed, and he gave me all the love and support I could ask for. I don't know if I will ever be able to thank him for what he did for me. We have been in a lot of therapy since then, both together and separately, and I now know I want to spend the rest of my life making him feel loved, cherished, and secure. It might take a long time to earn back his trust, but if I can make him happy, I will do whatever it takes. I now realize his smile and laugh are the only things I need to feel complete. However, I will never be able to erase the pain I caused him. No one deserves to be in a position where they have to wonder what they did to deserve being treated that way. There is no justification. Story 36. I have been cheated on, I have been the cheater, and I have been the person who helped someone in a relationship cheat. All of these situations happened in early adulthood. When I think back on these times, I cringe and almost cry if I reflect on it too much. It was never worth it. Story 37. Once, in college, I don't remember much because I had a serious drinking problem. I was struggling with my sexuality, and the drinking didn't help. I made a really bad choice. I'm lucky to have been forgiven, but it's still my greatest regret in life. Yes, my partner and I are still together. We have been together for 20 years, married for 15 of them. Even though I learned some important things about myself through this huge mistake, I don't consider it worth it. It is the one act in my life that I would erase if I could. Story 38. We started the relationship early. We were both 12 or 13 years old and having sex consistently with protection. As you might imagine, we were madly in love with each other. Due to our lack of emotional maturity, this situation led us to react or act out against each other in an extremely unhealthy way. We were actually together for about 20 years, with maybe 3 years off here and there, moving on and then inevitably coming back together. We never married and never had children. It became really toxic at the end, which was about 5 years ago, and it was undoubtedly due to all the cheating we did to one another over the years. I don't think it was necessarily either of our faults. We just formed a very unhealthy bond with someone we deeply cared for. It was complicated, and I don't regret our time together, only some of the decisions mostly I, made to stay together. I probably should see a therapist about that. Story 39. Before you call me a monster, he was abusive. He isolated me from my friends and family, insulted me in front of his friends, and publicly humiliated me. He controlled what I wore and constantly sexually assaulted me despite my repeated attempts to get him to stop. No did not mean no to him. Sleeping did not mean no either. I would wake up feeling violated. I cheated, and he viewed me as unworthy, screaming at me and banging on his steering wheel while driving, before dropping me off at my grandparents' house. It was worth it. Story 40. Being on social media, I see many of my friends post pictures with their significant others. Sometimes I feel like I am missing out on relationships, but the comments in this post make me glad that I am not involved in any. I would rather keep my mental health in check than enter a relationship and risk being cheated on later. Scary out there. Story 41. I cheated because he was always demeaning me, and I realized he was using me for what he thought were financial benefits when I was just being nice and gifting him a lot, even though I am not wealthy. I definitely do not regret it. I have never cheated on anyone who wasn't a total jerk. Leaving when someone is that rude feels like losing some kind of game. Story 42. It was not worth it, and I hurt my former partner in ways that I will always feel guilty about. I wish I had communicated instead of doing something that my former partner and I will always have to live with. Story 43. It wasn't worth it. I cheated with a few different people, and I never felt good about it afterward. I always felt bad, and the experience wasn't good at all. I still think about it from time to time and feel bad about hurting someone who loved me so much just because I could. Story 44. Yes, I found my person. I feel really bad about what I did to my ex-partner, but in the end, it was worth it. Story 45. I cheated on my girlfriend when I was quite young, around 20. Up until that point, not many girls had given me a chance. Looking back, things changed significantly after I started my first serious relationship. The first time I cheated was with someone close to her. I remember a strange feeling, almost like a sense of crossing a point of no return. Once I did it, I felt that it would always be a part of me. I ended up being with a few other girls. It was easier the second time because the act was already done. I told myself I was young and carefree, but I was the one suffering in the relationship because of my secret. Our relationship also turned into a long-distance one while I was in college. I didn't have sex with anyone, but I did fool around with some girls I met there and even one from home who visited me sometimes. I really liked her. You might wonder why I stayed in the relationship at all. Honestly, she was my first love, and I guess that's why. I felt bad at the time and regretted my actions later. One of the girls I cheated with told my girlfriend about another girl long after we broke up. She called me shocked, and I ended up confessing. I think they're still friends. As I matured, I regretted how I acted. She was a wonderful person, but I was too young and inexperienced to appreciate it. She didn't deserve that. At the time, my mindset was that it was worth it because of the excitement. But now, removed from the situation, I'm left with the memory of cheating on someone who truly cared about me. She was also young, and I heard she may have cheated on me at some point, but I never received concrete details since we had been broken up for a while when I learned about it, and it ultimately didn't matter. On a side note, my friend's wife cheated on him, causing chaos in their family, but she seems to be in a much better place now. She might say it was worth it. Story 46. We decided to get a divorce, but we were technically married when I started talking to other women. She calls it cheating. I call it moving on and being done with her emotionally manipulating me by threatening suicide. This was my way of working on being happy again. There is a considerable amount of backstory here, but we didn't live together for nearly a year. She withheld intimacy from me except for 2 times during that period. She also chose not to live with me, opting instead to live with her mother and taking my children away from me, forcing me to make 4-hour one-way trips whenever I wanted to see them. Story 47. I have been unfaithful twice. The first time was with my high school girlfriend. I was overwhelmed by my hormones, but she lacked the confidence to fully engage in the relationship. For some reason I never understood, it seemed to hurt her. This situation frustrated me. I ended up getting drunk and sleeping with someone else. I have no regrets. It was high school. However, the guilt overwhelmed me, and I ended up ending things with both girls. The second time was with an ex I met when I was homeless at 18. She left the area to visit a friend, and during her absence, I found someone to kiss and attempt to be intimate with. That didn't work out, as she found out but chose to stay with me. Eventually, she cheated on me. Since then, I have often found myself in situations where I have been unfaithful. Story 48. I was in a 6-year relationship and had an online affair during the last 8 months of it. She didn't know. I was extremely careful. My affair partner was probably the only person in my life at the time who was kind to me and offered me any support. He was someone I could talk to about the abuse I endured, who didn't immediately tell me to leave, but listened and understood. There was no bashing. It was genuine kinship. A combination of factors led me to seek it out, transitioning from lurking to messaging to having a full-blown affair. The relationship I was in was very abusive. I didn't recognize much of it at the time. I just thought something was broken in me and that my partner hated me. For about the last 2 years, I genuinely felt like a terrible person. During that time, she lost her job due to her anger issues and started drinking excessively. She didn't get another job, and I can't even express how many things she did that altered my perception of reality and my self-image. A lot of it related to intimacy. I wasn't affectionate enough. I was always tired and too controlling. We started sleeping in separate rooms. Our intimate life became entirely one-sided. I was never touched or given any release afterward. She wasn't interested in my feelings regarding it. She would often joke about my needs or make fun of my desires. Several people in her life tried to pursue affairs with me about a year before I reached my breaking point. 2 of her cousins and 1 of her friends, along with several others I met through my job. I was being ridiculed and evaluated constantly at home but desired everywhere else outside of her. She kept suggesting an open relationship, but only for me to have casual encounters with others. I began to think that might be the only way I would ever experience intimacy and desire again. I was terrified. That's how she viewed my needs, not as feelings of loneliness or disgust, not as being overwhelmed by her anger, drinking, and drug use, or the fact that she never prioritized me over her friends, or that I did all the cleaning and cooking. I was constantly subjected to criticism about my disability, my family, my job, and my friends. By the time I began looking into infidelity groups, I was overwhelmed by the chaos of screaming, crying, and spiraling arguments. Every time I would beg and compromise, promising to do better, touch her more, have more intimacy, listen more, I felt like a broken person who didn't know how to care for someone. One night, we had a good friend over, and she asked if she could be intimate with him on the couch in the next room. She was angry when I said no. Many people ask, why wouldn't you just leave? The answer is simple. You're not ready. You believe things will improve at home, or the relationship has worn you down to a point where you feel helpless and worthless, like dirt. You believe you have no value without them, so you hide, you adapt, you try your best to be what they want. Even if you're already beginning to separate emotionally, you hope for improvement. You don't want to take the step that could disrupt your entire life. You don't feel prepared. For many, there's no good reason to stay. But for me and others I knew seeking infidelity, there were countless challenging circumstances involved, such as a complete lack of intimacy, children, illness, death, mental health issues, lack of family support, financial constraints, and ongoing emotional and physical abuse. I was severely depressed and struggled to connect with her at all. Everything felt draining and one-sided. I felt like a caregiver, a maid, a sex slave. I was scared and extremely sad. I couldn't express those feelings because it would only provoke more anger. There were never compromises. If I brought something up, it led to breakup discussions. Each conversation became so chaotic that I would forget what was happening. Every discussion felt similar. I couldn't remember everything said. I would just become confused and distressed and eventually start begging for forgiveness. She ended it one day by saying, "You keep saying you're going to get better, but I don't think you ever will." I packed my things in 3 weeks and didn't look back. How she treated me once we weren't together was shocking, yet not surprising. She did a few things that led me to sever contact completely. It was all negative, distorted, painful, cruel. I don't miss her. I didn't like who I was with her. I couldn't express softness, talk about feelings, or have a partner who communicated gently and openly. I didn't experience love for who I was. So yes, I cheated. I don't regret it. It likely kept me sane and reminded me that I was a person outside of my relationship. My affair partner became my friend. He genuinely provided a safe space for me. He is getting divorced now, and I hope he finds happiness. I used to think that those who cheated were the worst type of person, and I was vehemently against it. I no longer see things in black and white. I learned that I am capable of infidelity under certain circumstances. I realized that I am not as steady and loyal as I once believed. I also learned that love is not always enough to maintain a relationship. Story 49. I realized I didn't know what love was and that I probably didn't love my partners enough. I was chasing connection and physical contact, which I thought I could only find by being intimate with women. However, by doing that, I alienated my partners and friends and took away opportunities for growing true, long-term, deep connections. At some point, I was so disgusted by myself that I swore I would never do it again. No more lying. I feel much better now and have a really good relationship with someone I can be completely open and vulnerable with. No more lying means no more being ashamed of myself and being able to actually open up to people, which makes me a lot more confident, improves everything, and allows me to build deep connections with those around me. I must say that getting older and apparently having less testosterone also helps a lot. Story 50. I know a girl who cheated on her boyfriend from day one with multiple men. He only broke up with her for about 3 days, and she is still living with us, so it seemed worth it for her. Story 51. A couple of years after I got caught, it still haunts me every single day. My marriage was troubled and destined to end, but it was not the way to go out for many reasons. I caused a lot of pain, more than I could have imagined back then, but the damage I've done to myself feels like a mental prison that I'll have to carry with me to the grave. I focus on my mental health, being the best father for my kids moving forward and striving to be the best version of myself I can be. Sober for a year this week. However, it doesn't help when I'm alone and my thoughts spiral. It's misery that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Story 52. Definitely not worth it. I cheated on my partner with a female friend. She spent a year undermining my relationship, and I fell for it. Neither of us was single. I was married and she had a boyfriend. Ultimately, I started realizing that she was toxic and that she orchestrated the doubts I had about our relationship. I already had issues with women due to growing up with a narcissistic mother, and this situation only made it worse. My closest friends were all women to compensate for my childhood, and falling for what she was doing tore me up. I should have known better. I ended the relationship, severed all ties to the woman I cheated with and all of our mutual friends, and poured everything into fixing the damage with my wife. A year later, we are doing amazing. Somehow she found out. I'm not sure how, and I've never asked, but she did. I confessed to everything. Took time, but we made it through. I worked on myself during that time while proving that I am a devoted husband and now, a father. I realized that while I had female friends for comfort, I tended to use sex as a way to feel valuable. Ultimately, I deeply hurt someone I love very much, and as conflicted as I was, I never stopped loving her. It's a level of pain I can't put into words. Not only seeing someone I care for deeply hurting, but also knowing that I am the cause of it. I'm really glad we made it past my blindness to what was in front of me and my foolishness. Don't do it. You only hurt good people. Story 53. You should ask my former fiancé. He is still with her and continues to choose her over our son, so it must be fulfilling some need for him. Story 54. I learned and grew, realizing that the grass was not greener. I have no desire to cheat now. I never really got caught, but I gave my spouse a hall pass as a peace offering, which they accepted. We opened the relationship for a while and then closed it. Ultimately, it all worked out for the best. Story 55. My then girlfriend and I were going through a very serious rough patch. I knew it was over. It was just a matter of time. One night, I went out with coworkers and got very drunk. I was dancing with one of them, and it became obvious that she was interested in me, so we kissed. We also kissed a few times on different occasions. To be honest, at the time, it just felt nice to be desired again since I was in a classic dead bedroom situation. But I still felt awful and would never want to do it again. After my girlfriend and I broke up, I found out that she had cheated on me several times. Story 56. Cheating made me realize I should have listened to myself in the first place and stayed single until I had the maturity and emotional intelligence for a proper relationship. Story 57. I didn't cheat, but I cheated emotionally. I think it's the way you say it, and I hate myself for it. I regret everything I ever did to that girl. She loved me like no one ever will, but I was too immature to treat her right. Sometimes, I even want to end it all because it's so hard to live like this, knowing I will never find someone better. Worse than that, I wasted almost 3 years of her life. If you are reading this, please treat your girlfriend with love. Never get mad over trivial matters. Always do what she wants and do things for her, even if you feel lazy. I'm telling you, you will regret it later if you don't do this. Story 58. I have cheated on 2 separate women. A girlfriend and my previous wife, both with the same woman. We are married now and have been together for 18 years this time around. My ex-girlfriend never really recovered from the breakup, but she was difficult to be with. It has been 30 years, and I can honestly say that I wasn't the problem. I run into her from time to time, and a friend still knows her. From what I hear, she has given up on relationships. My ex-wife understands now. My current marriage has outlasted her second one. She and my wife have actually hung out and communicate better than I do with her, as there is a shared daughter from the previous marriage, so we still collaborate. Story 59. Not worth it at all. I destroyed his trust and self-esteem, our life, and our home. I severely hurt the person I love most in the world, shattered his perception of reality, and brought him to the deepest pit of misery. I've disappointed every single person who loved and believed in me, including him. He never deserved it. I seriously contemplated suicide several times, both during the affair and after its discovery, and came dangerously close to going through with it a handful of times. To take the coward's way out would be the biggest betrayal to him. He always deserved better. But truthfully, the guilt is all-consuming. I'm trying to stay focused on the inner work I have to do. I've dove headfirst into therapy, deactivated social media, significantly reduced my substance use, and journaled every day. I'm grieving the person I thought I was before all of this. I'm figuring my life out. I never want to inflict this pain on anyone ever again. Story 60. I regret it every day, and it has been months. I have mostly forgiven myself and found God. but I still have some guilt left over. I would say it is a healthy amount. Story 61. I cheated on my high school sweetheart when I was in college in a different state. We had opened the relationship and then closed it, but I felt overconfident and continued hooking up with other girls. She and I ended up breaking up just after the first semester, a few days before I went home. I kind of expected it but was still emotionally affected. It turned out she hooked up with and started dating my friend from home around the same time. A few months later, she confronted me about cheating, and I realized how much it hurt to hurt someone like that and to find out I was also cheated on. I promised then that I wouldn't cheat again, seeing it as a deal breaker. If I ever felt the urge to cheat, I would end the relationship first. I still feel terrible about what I did and how I hurt her, and I have kept the promise I made to myself. Since then, I haven't cheated, but I was cheated on in a later relationship. While those experiences led me to interesting situations and valuable lessons, the emotional weight of what happened still lingers. Story 62. Not worth it at all. I did it because my partner was doing it, and I wanted to see how amazing it must be. Turns out they must have really been feeling terrible. Story 63. Sigh, everyone will hate me anyway. And I get it, but I'll tell the story. It was close to 20 years ago when I was in my early 20s. My boyfriend and I had been on and off, fighting a lot and generally having a miserable, toxic relationship. We lived together and kept trying to make it work. I didn't recognize the term emotional cheating at the time, but that's how it started. I had become really good friends with one of my ex-boyfriends, as he would always be there for me, particularly whenever my boyfriend and I were having problems. Likewise, I was there for my ex when he and his girlfriend broke up. On a break from college, I went home to visit my family and friends while my boyfriend went to his home state to do the same. My ex and I ended up sleeping together, and I felt terrible. It was the worst thing I've ever done to someone, and I don't understand why I didn't just break up beforehand. I hadn't planned on sleeping with him, but I still did. I knew afterward that there was no coming back from that. The fact that I allowed myself to cheat meant it was over. I never told my boyfriend what happened. I just became very distant and broke up once we both flew back. Our last year together was really rocky, so he didn't even question whether there was a catalyst or just time apart. I don't know if I should have told him what happened or if it was better left unsaid. I look back at the years of fights, screaming, and insults, and I don't understand why I didn't break up without betrayal first. I feel horrible for the specific act, but honestly, I am glad something finally ended that relationship. I have never cheated since, and I never would. So how do I feel about it? Guilty and terrible. Was it worth it? No, it was the wrong thing to do. Are all of our lives better than they were? Absolutely. I am still friends with the ex-boyfriend I cheated with. He wanted a casual thing, always assuming I'd be around. I need stability, so after a few years of us being messy while single, I ended things with him as well and moved on. We're not super close, but we catch up from time to time. He tried to pull some inappropriate stuff over 10 years ago when I started dating my husband, and I made it clear that was long over. As for the ex I cheated on, he also moved on to someone much better for him and seems pretty happy. Story 64. If you have to ask about this breakup, then you should end the relationship. You clearly do not want to be in it. Story 65. I was looking for something my partner couldn't provide me with, but I was not brave enough to end the relationship. It would have been better to end it. Story 66. Yes and no. I was faithful for 8 years, but he was often away and struggled with communication. Initially, I felt guilty, but over time it was as if a switch flipped, and I began to care less. I loved him and still do, but I was no longer in love and too much of a coward to end things. He eventually discovered my feelings and left without a word. We have seen each other since and talked, and I know the damage I've done. I don't regret it because I believe it was better to end our relationship, but I will never forgive myself for hurting him this much. Story 67. I'll be honest. I have felt regret in the past, but I no longer feel bad about it. At that time, I did. I am not making excuses, but the relationship was toxic and never had the potential for a lasting commitment. I am now married to the person I cheated with, and for me, it was worth it. I have made amends with my ex. It was over 8 years ago, and we see each other occasionally due to mutual friends, so it's sometimes inevitable. Things are cordial between us. Story 68. I feel all right because I've moved on. I felt terrible for sure when I did it though. I wasn't in love with my long-distance relationship anymore, and I was afraid to leave him. So, I ended up kissing a friend of mine when I was drunk. Story 69. Fine. It was worth it in the way a cupcake is worth it. Something extra, unnecessary, but enjoyable. Nothing to worry about. Story 70. No, definitely not, but such an analysis does not happen in a cheater's mind, even after the event. What is done. If after the analysis you find it wasn't worth it, then can you undo it? Story 71. For full disclosure, I have never been married or engaged, but it was worth it and it was fun. Did I morally fail? Yes. Would I rather have been married and only have eyes for my wife? Of course. That has always been my heart's desire. Story 72. People who have cheated. I need advice. Please. I have never been in a relationship, but my best friend has made it clear that he is willing to cheat on his girlfriend, who is also the mother of his child, with me. Unfortunately, as desperate as I am for affection, I've been considering it. I've denied him twice, but the sexual tension is still there. He has a history of cheating and has cheated on his girlfriend at least 3 times in the past. I became good friends with him before I knew that, and I stayed friends with him because I believe someone can be a good friend but a bad partner. Now he's involving me, and because I'm feeling desperate, sex with my best friend is more tempting than I care to admit. I think he sees sex with his best friend, who is a guy, as a loophole that doesn't count as cheating. Please tell me what I would go through mentally and emotionally if I were to give in. I need to be dissuaded from this. I know I shouldn't, but it's hard right now to say no. Story 73. It wasn't worth it and I wouldn't do it again. However, it did expose some character flaws and desires that prompted me to make significant changes. When I cheated, I was being selfish, cowardly, and immature. I had several dalliances and then a year-long affair with the man who is now my husband. He was also unfaithful to his partner at the time. The first couple of years for us were very rocky due to the trust issues we faced, but overcoming those challenges has made us incredibly strong. Now we are 8 years later. We also have a consensually non-monogamous marriage. Much as we hate to admit it, a lot of the excitement and heat from cheating comes from it being off limits. When that illicit feeling is removed, there is much less desire to look outside the marriage. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.